far in all this crisis. Is that it now? Are we going to grind to a halt now?
Well, of course, Japan has its own inherent problems because, of course, we've seen that in the export numbers over the last couple of sessions. We know about the Japanese economy slipping back into recession, but, of course, the banking sector in Japan doesn't have the same problems that the majority of the Western banks actually have. And, of course, the painful restructuring that Japan has undergone through the 90s, through the deflation spiral that it had undergone, probably does allow it to have a slightly better underlying structural position than perhaps some of the other economies. So if we continue to see negativity regarding the global environment and risk aversion remaining relatively elevated, then it's kind of hard still to stand in the way of residual yen strength.
How much further do we go then? 92.50 was a quote I heard this morning.
Well, I think one would suspect that if we were to see the 90 level tested, then that may well be the signal for the MOF to have a line in the sand, because, of course, we're well in advance of anything that we've seen in terms of budget rates for the Japanese exporters. So I think we could well find that there is further downside risk, but I think it will be interesting to see if we get to that 90 level, whether that would prove to be defended or not.
Let's talk about euro dollar. Here's a quote from Barclays Capital. The euro could rise 16% against the dollar in 12 months on Chinese demand for oil, which then lessens the allure of the US dollar. 16%. It's quite a move. Would you subscribe to that view?
Not in that time frame, no. I think certainly for the next 6 to 9 months, if you work on the presumption that maybe the US, which was first into this economic downturn and has probably done most to help alleviate the ramifications of it, will perhaps be also one of the first to come out of it, and also because of the structural dynamism of the economy, then I think there's probably still a case to say that there is grounds for euro-dollar to trade lower. But having said that, I think into the end of next year and probably into 2010, then you may well start to see a return to growth in the Eurozone, but also Euro-dollar moving back higher. So I think we still have some way to go down. I think we may well find that we get down to maybe 116 as a trough before we actually start to see a reversal. But I wouldn't necessarily think it will happen in that sort of time frame.
So what was Euro-yen do then in that case?
Well, I think it may well be the case that Euro-yen still has tests to the downside, but I think probably over time you're probably still looking at something somewhere pinned between a 120, 130 handle over the medium term, with risks that we do see spikes to the downside in those previous lows.
Okay, Jeremy, thank you very much for that. More from Jeremy in just a moment. Coming up, just as British politicians fret about a run on the pound, the currency posting a winning week against the dollar and the euro. Is this just a temporary reprieve? We'll be finding out after the break the prospects of that pre-budget report. What will it mean for sterling? Again, with Jeremy Stretch of Rabobank after this break.